This is The Roadmap with Lee Heisman.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Roadmap, exclusively here on ASBN.com. I'm Lee Heisman, and every week we bring you some of the brightest entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business owners who are climbing the ladder, scaling their businesses, and thinking about one day how to exit stage left. Today, we have a special guest, CEO, co-founder, president of Sourced, Gabrielle Mills. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, Lee.
Excellent. Local Atlantean.
That's right. Born and raised.
But there's a limited amount of them.
There are, and it's getting smaller and smaller by the day.
When I moved here 27 years ago, it was called Transplanta because everybody was coming, but it just keeps shrinking. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's getting to be a small world.
Okay, fair. For kind of like the Disney ride.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although a little bit more fun than repetitive music.
It's brilliant. Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to talk about Source, but before we get into that and kind of how that started, talk about your career, what led up to you opening your own business.
Yes. So I started my career as an intern at IHG, Intercontinental Hotels Group. And I was very fortunate to get that internship in the branding department. And prior to that, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. I actually went into college as a liberal arts major. I tried to be a business major, said, hey, that's not for me. Mostly because I didn't want to do accounting work, which is hilarious because now I'm a business owner and part of what I do is accounting. And so I went into branding and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, but I just knew that it wasn't my path. It wasn't for me. So my business partner, Chrissy, and I spent basically the entire time I was at IHG looking at different franchises or businesses that we could do. And when we came up with the concept of Sourced, we just jumped 2 feet first.
So go back a little bit to IHG. Did you learn anything there over 5 years? Or did you learn that you didn't want to keep learning things?
I was really early in my career. So I jumped ship at 26, cold turkey. Chrissy is my mom. So I was very lucky to be able to get rid of rent, get rid of all my bills, and move into her basement.
So you just jumped ship a year ago?
Thank you for saying that.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Thank you for saying that. What I learned at IHG is it's a funny question because what I tell people who go from corporate to small business is I say everything you think you know, throw it out the window. You have to start from scratch. Small business is nothing like corporate business, not even close. So I learned a little bit of business acumen. I learned about the quality level of work that I can produce. I met some really smart people. I took little nuggets here and there. But basically, when you start a business, it is a blank slate. In corporate, you have such a myopic view of the entire business as a whole that you kind of just have to start from scratch, and that's what we did.
You know, great term. I use that a lot when I'm providing guidance to young entrepreneurs and on this show, entrepreneurs, people that want to become an entrepreneur. Sometimes they think too far down the road, and they're trying to put the cart before the horse. And I always say, take a more myopic view. Just take day by day. Sometimes it's nice to plan, but sometimes taking that smaller vantage point can help. So talk about Sourced, and we're going to get into your partner and how that began. But what is Sourced to do?
So at the very core of it, we help business owners and business leaders. That's why we started. That's why we exist. That's why we get out of bed in the morning, is because we are very, very passionate about helping people be successful in business ownership, business leadership, and entrepreneurship. We do that by offering back office services to small to mid-market companies. We do that on a fractional basis or on the talent acquisition level. So the easiest way that I can describe Sourced is that we have 5 businesses under one umbrella, which I chuckle at a little bit because when Chrissy and I started the business, we didn't know we were starting 5 businesses at the same time, but here we are. That's exactly what we did by accident.
So when you say, well, before I get into this, do you only refer to your partner as Chrissy, or do you refer to your partner as mom?
When the sun's up, she's Chrissy. When the sun's down, she's mom.
Okay, fair.
That's become our rule.
But early in your career, I'm guessing even when the sun down, she was Chrissy because you're working 24 hours a day as an entrepreneur.
That is true. We had to bump around a little bit. It never bothered her that I called her Chrissy or mom or whatever. But as she started as like a strategic person in the business. And then when the business quickly grew to where we both needed to be full time, I saw how that woman hustled and grinded every day. And I was like, it drove me crazy that people would call her your mom. And I'm like, that woman busts her butt every day. She is going to get a name around here.
It's brilliant.
So
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
it doesn't.
So go back to those 5 pillars of the organization, because I
Yeah.
want to know what kind of industries and organizations use your services. Kind of provide more clarity.
Yeah, so on the fractional side, we do accounting, and we do everything an accounting firm can do. We just don't do taxes. We we like people to keep their CPAs, and we work in partnership with CPAs. We also have a marketing agency. So any marketing that needs to be done, we can do it. We have an outsourced HR firm. Any HR problem, question, conversation, policy, compliance issue, you come to us for. And then we do part-time and fractional administrative support. That's all on the fractional side, so our businesses can have access to all of those back-end services at a fractional level because they probably don't need it at a full-time level. But what ended up coming out of that, probably at about year 3, was we had some clients come to us and say, this is great, but I need an engineer. I need a project manager. And we're like, well, we don't have one of those. So that's how the talent acquisition side came about. And so on the talent acquisition team, we do full-time direct hires for our clients as well.
So being the entrepreneur that you are, and I was joking, maybe you didn't start it a year ago because you were talking about age,
Yeah.
of course. How long have you been in business?
8 years.
8 years.
And it has been a blessing.
Wow. Okay, so in those 8 years, for our viewers out there, the way you're making it sounds fun, sounds easy. Give me a large mistake that maybe you did for a client, something that you learned from where maybe they were using a service and you weren't prepared for it. Give me just a few kind of, I hate to say nightmare stories, but things that you learned from early on.
Yeah, it is so much fun, but it is so not easy. I try to tell everybody that is going into entrepreneurship that you've got to know what your why is, because times do get dark. And you make a ton of mistakes, and you should make a ton of mistakes. You shouldn't be afraid of making those mistakes because that inevitably gets you to where you're supposed to be. Me and Chrissy have made every mistake in the book, every single one.
Can you talk about one?
Yeah.
You don't have to mention clients' names, but just
early on, our model was, here's a person, here's a client, make them together. And there are some businesses that is a phenomenal model for. That is not us. That put us at a lot of risk and a lot of liability. We made some bad hires, and so we connected them directly with clients, and they didn't do what they said they could do or indicated that they could, or we lost a little bit of control on quality. And what we were selling wasn't what we were delivering, and that caused huge problems. Probably the biggest mistake out of that wasn't hiring the wrong people. It was not noticing it soon enough and taking a little bit too much time defending our people, because you should, right? And it's like, we probably need to listen a little bit more closely.
So what have you implemented for vetting the people that work with you, the outsourced talent that you use? What do you do now to vet that?
We have a lot of people interviewing. Our talent acquisition team, the one who actually does placements for our clients, are the people that also do our hiring, and they've worked with us for years. We have a really good BS meter. And we just know what questions to ask. We know what are good answers or bad answers. We have multiple people who are tried and true in our business interview people. But the biggest change we made is we switched the model. We switched it from hear person, get person, and matchmaking them together to a team approach of, for accounting, for example, we have our team of accountants. They're overseen by managers. Those managers work in partnership with account managers who are the client advocate inside of our office. And then there's the client. So if there's any issue in any of those 3 spots, we can cycle people out. We can change things, move things around.
It's really smart. So now you've almost instituted by default now a checks and balances system.
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and we have a whole quality department.
It's not just one person and one person where, there's 3 sides to every story.
Yeah,
that person's in the truth, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a recipe for a disaster,
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
My gosh. So go into a little bit for the future of Sourced. What is your next step? Because it seems like you're evolving all the time.
All the time.
And from what you just said, from the beginning till now, you have this incorporated cross-pollination approach almost, what it sounds like, within your company. So your clients are getting better service, more eyes on every project. What's the next step?
So I love talking about the future. Chrissy and I are both visionaries. And our future, we want the company to be a sizable company. We want it to be a household name in the business landscape. Originally, we thought that was going to be through franchising, and that's not the way that we're going to take it now. Really what we're looking at doing is through acquisition, growing through acquisition. We have never done that before, just like we had never started a business before, we had never done accounting before, we had never done hiring before. We know good people, we know how to find good people, and we now know who our partners are, who are going to help us find other businesses that we can merge into ours and start to expand that way.
That's wonderful. Well, I looked at your website, and I will tell you the photographs of your staff, it just feels like a representation of you.
Thank you.
You almost could see in the photos, like, these look like really nice people. I looked at the diversity
They are
of your...
so nice.
It felt like that on the photographs that
Yeah.
I saw. So I do recommend that. And we'll tell people before we wrap up here how to look on your website
Sure.
and get in touch with you. But I'm going to throw 2 hard questions as we wrap up.
Go for it.
I didn't prepare you this one.
Okay, go for it.
And I wasn't doing that in a deceptive way. It just hit me. So I do ask this question a lot, and we're fortunate that you and Chrissy are partners and happen to be family members. But if I were to have Chrissy sitting here, and I were to ask her, what is the one thing that she would change about you as a partner, what would it be?
I think it already changed, to be honest.
Fair. And you didn't even hesitate.
Yeah, no. I'm a very self-aware person. I am who I am. Early in Sourced, I was such a little porcelain doll of emotions. And I am an empath. I feel big. I live big. And so much scared me. Every time we made an error, we made a mistake, somebody just responded strangely, we lost somebody in our team, anything, it would send me into a tailspin of, are we going to be okay? Are we going to make it? Is the ceiling going to come down? Are we like, do I need to go find a job?
Chicken Little.
Yes, it was very much like that. Through the growth that Sourced has given me over 8 years, I've developed quite a tough skin, and I've also developed really good people skills. I've always been a people person, but knowing how to manage them and knowing how to hold people accountable was not really a strength. And I think just going through the school of hard knocks and getting a few degrees from there has just given me the ability to like see an obstacle objectively and like, all right, how do we tackle this obstacle versus letting it really get to me. She
Fair.
pulled a lot of the weight in the beginning of pulling me out of those dark moments and saying, no, we can do this, we got this. And now we both lift each other up, and we're both going in the same direction and really excited about it. And don't let it bother us.
I'm sure if I asked you that question about Chrissy, there'd be nothing you could change about her. She's been your
nothing. She's
mom
perfect.
your whole life, of course, and she's perfect. So how do people go and look at the website like I did, utilize your services, understand more? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So getsourced.com is the domain name for our website. They can follow us on all the social media channels, Sourced ATL. And yeah, that would be the best way. Just go onto our website.
Gabrielle Mills, my gosh, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I want to give a small shout out to Cliff Oxford, who's a friend of the studio, put us in touch. We were recently at the event on February 16th, and there's another one coming up on May 10th for Cliff as well. And you get around people like Cliff, and I'm telling you, I'm going to look at our audience right here. You get around people like Cliff at Cliffco, you start connecting to wonderful people. It's who you surround yourself. So Gabrielle, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Can't thank you enough. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope this show was insightful for you, because I know it was for me. We hope to see you again next week on another episode of The Roadmap.
Thanks for watching The Roadmap with Lee Heisman.